Welcome to episode number 6 of the High School Football Roundup podcast. I'm Walter Johnson, and in this edition, got plenty of big games to talk about, including Lee County and Bainbridge, Worth County, Turner County, a Saturday night showdown at Hummel Stadium in Albany between Westover and Monroe, and another Saturday night contest some 40-plus miles down the road in Moultrie between Colquitt County and American Heritage of Florida. Not much time to waste, so let's get started. And we'll start with Lee County and Bainbridge at Bainbridge, a big battle down in Bainbridge. And the Trojans from Leesburg opened the season in Macon on the campus of Mercer University with a thrilling 20-13 win over Jones County at the Corky Cow Classic. And just several years ago, Lee County and Bainbridge were in Region 1-5A of the GHSA. And while Lee County trails in the all-time series with just 4 wins, all-time to 12 for Bainbridge, the Trojans did come out on top in a convincing way in the last meeting as Lee County rolled to a 38-14 victory. And a huge measuring stick for the Trojans in that contest. And Achilles Leroy, who transferred to Lee County from Monroe of Albany, a former Tornado, and led the defense with 8 tackles, forced 1 fumble, and even recovered a fumble. And the key to victory for Lee County this week will be not only be stopping a 2,000-yard rusher in Damian Pierce, but also a 2,000-yard passer in Brett McLaughlin at quarterback. And at running back, Pierce ran for over 2,060 yards, and more than 30 touchdowns and just over 300 carries. McLaughlin passed for over 2,050 yards and 14 touchdowns. It should be a very good game. And another game that should be good will take place in Ashburn, Georgia. Turner County Rebels, who opened their season with a hard-fought 34-32 win at Hummel Stadium in Albany over the Darty Trojans, will face a Worth County Rams team that will try to bounce back after they were taken to the woodshed at Thomas County Central. And TCC cruised to a 48-7 victory in Thomasville, Georgia last week. And the big game at Hummel Stadium on Saturday night pits the Westover Patriots against the Monroe Tornadoes. And it's the season opener for the 2 largest public high schools in Darty County. And the Tornadoes have won the last 2 contests, including a 44-24 win last year. And the Patriots finished 2-8 last year and lost a lot of talent from that squad. And while Westover will stay in Class 4A this year and next, Monroe will drop down to 4A. And despite the back-to-back 6-4 seasons, the Trojans found themselves on the outside. The Tornadoes from Monroe found themselves on the outside looking in. And when the playoffs rolled around, so it'll be in with it's just bragging rights and pride on the line when these 2 teams will meet on Saturday night. Kickoff set for 7 p.m. on August 27th. And other Saturday night contests in Southwest Georgia will take place in Moultrie, Georgia, as the Colquitt County Packers will try to start a new winning streak after their 30-game winning streak, which spanned 2 full seasons in 2014-2015, winning back-to-back Class 6A state titles, was snapped by Mill Creek at the Georgia Dome in Atlanta at the Corky Cow Classic And Colquitt County fell to Mill Creek 34-27. So it'll be interesting to see if the Packers can bounce back. It'll be interesting to see how they can respond to adversity. In national TV, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Saturday night, August 27th on ESPNU. Also online at MFHS Network at nfhsnetwork.com. And like I said, it'll be interesting to see how this Colquitt County team will respond to adversity. And some of the other games of interest here in southwest Georgia, especially in around Albany. Mitchell County paying a visit to Hummel Stadium in Albany for the Friday night contest on August 26th against Albany High. And this is the season opener for the Eagles from Camilla. And while Albany High will look to get in the win column after losing 21-12 to Pelham last week. And speaking of those Hornets in Class Single A, and this will be the Region 1 Single A opener for them this week against the Baconton Charter Blazers, played at Centennial Stadium in Camilla. So in reality, this is kind of like a neutral site game, with Pelham being the designated visiting team and Baconton Charter being the designated home team. And Pelham, as mentioned earlier, defeated Albany High at Hummel Stadium in Albany last week, and Baconton Charter crushed Patala Charter out of Edison, Georgia, 43-0. And last week was the first ever game in the short history of Patala Charter, the Panthers. And in Dawson, got Terrell County Green Wave looking to win their first game of the season, taking on Miller County. And this is the GHSA Region 1 Single A opener for both teams. And Miller edged Deerfield Windsor, actually held off the GISA Knights in overtime, 28-27 in a scrimmage last week. And it was more of a regular season game for Deerfield Windsor. More on that momentarily. And as for Terrell County, the Green Wave will look to bounce back after losing their season opener on the road at Taylor County, to Taylor County. And Schley County, the Wildcats from Ellaville, Georgia, were on the road against the Calhoun County Cougars. And Calhoun County, winless last year, will try to get their first win of the season and start 2016 off on the right foot. And Patala Charter on the road against Webster County. And Patala Charter playing a non-region schedule. And some GISA action. The Deerfield Windsor Knights, 1 win and 1 loss, defeating Trinity Christian of Sharpsburg, Georgia, while losing at Miller County down in Colquitt, Georgia, on the road for the second straight week, crossing the state line into Florida to face North Florida Christian at Tallahassee. And that should be an interesting contest. And the Knights also, trying to bounce back after losing a heartbreaker. And Deerfield will also try to go to 2-1, and the Knights will not have a bye week this season. And obviously it doesn't get any easier facing one of the perennial small school powerhouse teams in the Sunshine State in North Florida Christian. And heading to Americus, Georgia, will be the Westwood Wildcats from Camilla, and up U.S. Highway 19 to Americus to face Southland. And these former GISA Region 3 AAA foes will meet for a non-region contest. And Westwood will try to get back in the win column after losing to Windsor out of Macon. And as for the Raiders of Southland, they'll look to go to 2-0. And the Raiders pulled off the upset over perennial Middle Georgia power Westfield out of Perry, Georgia, 12-6. And also in Dawson, the Terrell Academy Eagles lost a late lead and fell to Brookwood out of Thomasville last week. And it doesn't get any easier for Terrell Academy as they play host to the Heritage Hawks out of Noonan, Georgia. And Heritage is now 2-0. And both of the Hawks' wins came over Windsor and Flint River Academy. And Flint River is located in Thomaston, Georgia. That's Thomaston, Georgia. That's in west central Georgia. And anywhere in southwest Georgia. And just south of Albany, the Sherwood Christian Eagles will try to crack the win column against the Crusaders from Griffin Christian. And both teams were shut out last week, while SCA lost 61-0 to Fullington Academy. Community Christian crushed Griffin Christian 42-0. And obviously, the Eagles out of the GICAA will be looking to not only win their first game of 2016, but also looking for something positive, anything positive. And how about some other games of interest within southwest, south central Georgia, and so forth. And how about another rivalry game up in Fitzgerald between the Purple Hurricanes and Irwin County. And Irwin County reached the state championship game in the Class Single A public school division, only to lose both times. And while Fitzgerald reached the championship game in Class AA last season, losing to Pace Academy. And not only will bragging rights be on the line for both of these teams, and that contest will be a good measuring stick for both teams. And last week, Irwin County blasted Berrien County 42-7. And this is the season opener for the Purple Hurricanes. And the Purple Hurricanes obviously are very, very anxious to play an actual game in front of a large crowd. What's sure to be a large crowd at JC Stadium in Fitzgerald. And dating back to 2000, Fitzgerald has a lead of 15-0-1, 15 losses, made that 15 wins against 0 losses, and 1 tie. And another rivalry game down in Thomasville, Georgia, Class 5A Thomas County Central, taking on Thomasville, as mentioned earlier. TCC trounced Worth County last week 48-7, while Thomasville, the Class AA Bulldogs, fell to the Class 4A Cairo Syrup Makers 23-12. And TCC will look to go to 2-0, and while the Bulldogs will be looking for their first win under new head coach Zach Grage after the loss to Cairo last week. And America Sumter, and yet another rivalry game, heads down U.S. Highway 280 to Cordele to take on Crisp County. And a couple of GISA games to mention. Tift area goes on the road to face Southwest Georgia Academy. It's the Panthers from tiny Chula, Georgia, against the Warriors from Southwest Georgia Academy, or SGA, out of Damascus, Georgia. And Valwood, the defending GISA Class AAA state champions, head to Perry, Georgia to face Westfield, with Westfield trying to bounce back after the loss to Southland. And we're out of time for this edition, episode 6 of the High School Football Roundup podcast. I'm Walter Johnson. Listen to previous episodes online at Southwest Georgia Network. Follow on Twitter at SWJ Network. May your favorite team win.